Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 82 of the weekly playback. My apologies if I seem really groggy in this video because I am. So I had a pretty late night last night. I went to Binghamton, New York for Luma Festival, which is something I've been doing, gosh, for like the last 5 years or so, I think. It is a light mapping projection festival. I do not know how else to describe it. So it's really cool. I love light projection artwork. So this, there's artists from all around the world and they create like moving light art that is projected onto certain buildings, and they use the architectural details of those buildings to create their art piece, their light show. And it is really amazing, and I absolutely love light art. Like, I've seen light art shows in various places like London, New York City, Miami, and so on. And honestly, the light art shows in Binghamton every year are just some of the best, like the best I've ever seen. So I try to go to that festival every year. So I went last night and it was a late night, and then I had an early start this morning. Today is Sunday when I'm shooting this video. So I'm pretty groggy. So apologies in advance for that. But with that being said, let's get into the games that I played in the last week. So I actually played Fit to Print not this past week, but the week before, but my copy just arrived yesterday. I had received a notification in August that the printing label was printed on August 17th, and I did not receive my copy until September 9th. So it was just like stuck in limbo for God knows how long. So yeah, but I finally received it. So Fit to Print is a 2023 game for 1 to 6 players. It's designed by Peter McPherson, and the art is done by Ian O'Toole, and it's published by Flat Out Games. Now, this is a real-time tile placement game in which you are creating a paper with like news stories and stuff. So I absolutely love the artwork in this game, which is, one of the reasons I wanted to back it. I do love tile placement games. I do not know if I have a real-time tile placement game. Actually, I think I do. But yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but I think I have another real-time tile placement game called like Sorcerer City or something like that, I think. So each player is going to have a newspaper board. So let me just show you an example. So like, for example, here is the Evening Hoot, and you're going to see, like, I don't know if you'll be able to see it because my camera is not the best, but you'll see Friday, Saturday. So this will be the area you'll be covering for Friday, and then Saturday will include the outermost line as well, and then Sunday has the biggest area of all. So there's a number of boards, and they're called different things like the Chestnut Press, the Babbling Brook, and so on. So just different newspapers. And then each player is going to have a desk. I did not assemble the desk, but I'll just give you an idea of what it looks like. So I didn't assemble them because I wasn't sure if they would fit into the box assembled. So if anyone is watching this and has this game, let me know if these will fit, all of them will fit into the box assembled. Because if not, then I probably don't want to keep on assembling and disassembling them unless I'm playing them. But each person is going to have a desk, and each desk also looks different. Like, there's different stuff printed on each desk, which is, a nice touch that they're all kind of a little bit different. And then there are these tiles that each person is going to start out with one, and they're just kind of like end of round scoring bonuses. So for example, if you start, and they are, numbered. So I'll go with the A tiles because those are probably for the first round, I'm guessing, but I really don't know actually. Oh, and they actually have, okay, they're actually double-sided. So I don't know, maybe the A side is for the first round. I don't know. So for example, this one is Tips for a Tidy Workspace, and it says money symbol times each white space area at least 3 squares in size. So if you fulfill this objective during your round, then you will gain the extra things that it says. So in this case, I think it's money. I don't know. I actually don't know how this one scores, so I really don't know. But when you place this onto your board, onto your newspaper, you have to cover the star in some way. So yeah, so you just need to be able to cover the star when you place it down. And you're going to do that for each, day that you are printing the newspaper. So you're going to have a different one in each round. So there are 3 rounds in this game, and each round you will have a different one of these scoring tiles. And you'll also be able to pick which one you want in the second and third round, depending on who finished their paper first in the previous round. So I'll get into all of that in a bit. So the game is played as such. So let me just remember how much time you have. So I think it is 4 minutes, maybe. So you're going to have a timer, and you are going to start, there's going to be a bunch of different newspaper pieces. They're all going to be upside down. So there's different kinds of items. So you'll see that there are things which are like pictures, there are articles, and there are advertisements. And, you know, I think that's it. Articles, pictures, and advertisements. And some are really skinny. Like, so for example, here's an article that is very skinny and long. And you're always going to have to place things in the correct orientation. Like, you can't have things sideways. So there are rules about placement. So first, you're going to have all these tiles, and there's like a whole bunch of them face down. And during the first phase of the game, which is called, I do not know, the reporting phase. During the reporting phase, you're going to, only using one hand, pick up a tile from the center of the table. It can be either face up or face down, and then you decide if you want it, and if you do, you put it onto your desk. So the desk that I showed you earlier, you will place it onto your desk if you want it. If you don't want it, you just place it back on the table face up. So you are going to be doing this, and then during the layout phase, you are then going to place these tiles into your paper. So they must be in alignment with the grid. Your centerpiece must cover the star square. We already talked about that. So everything has to be placed in the correct orientation, and articles of the same color cannot be adjacent on any sides to each other, or else you will have to flip one of them during scoring. And ads cannot be adjacent on any sides, or else you would have to flip tiles to resolve this issue during scoring. And photos cannot be adjacent to other photos. So tiles cannot be adjacent to their own type. Yeah. Oh, so articles of the same color. So articles of different colors can be adjacent to each other. So for example, this is a pink article and a blue article. So those can be adjacent to each other, but articles of the same color cannot be adjacent to each other. So that's what you're going to be doing during the reporting and layout phase. You are just going to be collecting tiles and then placing them down. You cannot like switch back and forth. Once you have finished reporting, like collecting all the tiles you want, then you go to the layout phase. You cannot then go back and be like, oh, actually I have more room, so I'm going to go and try to get something else. You cannot do that. Then you have the, then you go to scoring and stuff, the round end and scoring and so on. But for the whole reporting and layout phase, I believe you have a total of 4 minutes, if I remember correctly. I cannot find it, but I think you have a total of 4 minutes. Yes. 4 minutes is standard. If you want a more relaxed experience, it says you can use 5 minutes, but if you want a more intense experience, you can use 3 minutes. So yeah, so we went with 4 minutes in the game that we played, since it was our first time playing it. We did not play with any character card powers. I do not believe we did that, but it looks like that there are some player powers. I did not open this, but I'm assuming that that's what that is. Let's see. Let me see. Again, just really love the artwork. So some of them say must. These must be blah, 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 blah. Okay, I think the press pass are probably the player powers. So there are like different press passes with like different like abilities or like bonuses on them. So like it says, like for example, you can, it says 2 of your photos may be adjacent, which is nice. I wish I had that. So, this one says you may take 1 extra tile during the layout phase each round. Oh, that's really nice. So I don't know if we actually played with these. I don't think we played with these, but that would have been nice to have, I think. And then there's a bunch of other ones. So I wonder if this is like for some advanced mode where you also have additional rules you're supposed to follow. For example, this one says tiles may not cross the fold, which I think would make the game really hard. Like you can't cross the fold, so you're going to have to place either tiles like just above the fold or below the fold, but you cannot cross the fold. Like that would be hard. So these look like really, these look like restrictions that are going to make it harder for you to play. Yeah, so those are those cards. So yeah, so then when you go on to scoring, you're basically going to, at the same time, so one of the most important things when you're placing tiles is to have a balanced paper. So you don't want it to be too happy or too sad. So for example, each article is going to have either suns on it or like raindrops on it. So the suns indicate that it's happy and the raindrops, or whatever they are, indicate that it's sad. You want your suns and raindrops to equal each other by the end of the round. Otherwise, you will lose points. So during round end, you are going to score. So first you'll get points for the articles. So each tile has a point value. So you'll look at the point value of the tile itself. So for example, this article is worth 2 points because it's larger. So you'll add up all the articles that you have. But first, before you do that, you're of course going to check your neighbor's newspaper to make sure that they didn't violate any of the adjacency rules, which we already discussed. So then after you've checked for all those adjacency rules and such, then you go to scoring. So then you'll get points for your articles, you'll get points for photos. Now photos pair with articles. Photos you want to have adjacent to the article types which are indicated on it. So for example, this one, you want it adjacent to blue and green articles because you will get 1 point for each blue or green article that it is adjacent to. So that's what photos do. Then ads, they will not generate points, but they generate ad revenue for your newspaper. And then like whoever has the most ad revenue, I believe, gets like some points or something like that. But whoever has the least ad revenue at the end of the game by totaling up all 3 rounds of ad revenue, they will not get to count their score. Like they don't even get to be in the running to win this game. So you definitely want to pay attention to ads and make sure that you have enough ads during all 3 days, all 3 rounds. Then you're going to check for mood. So you're going to make sure that it's completely balanced. If not, you will lose points. So it says so like a paper with 5 smiley face icons and 3 frowny face icons would have a mood of 2, resulting in a penalty of -2. So you will lose minus. And then there's the white space bonus. So this will either penalize you or reward you. So you're going to look at the largest area of adjacent empty squares, count up the area, and if you were the person with the smallest largest area, you'll get +3 points. If you were the person with the largest area of empty squares, you will get -1 point. And if it was neither, then you will score an additional 1 point. So you're going to do that for each round. And then of course you're going to look at your round end scoring tile, which I showed you earlier, which was those. And then you're going to prepare for the next round. So you're going to remove all of the items. And if you had any items, left on your desk that you did not place, you would lose points for that, I believe. If I remember correctly. I believe so. Unplaced tiles, yes. -1 point each. And I believe that they stay on your desk for the next round. Yes, they do. So you will lose points if you were not able to place a tile that you had placed onto your desk because you cannot fit it somewhere. So you don't want to get too greedy and grab way too many tiles. Then you'll prepare for the next round. So if you were the first person to have completed your newspaper, like you announced that you were finished, then you would have taken the clock token that says 1. And then for the next round, you will get to have your first pick of the end of round scoring tile that will have to cover the star on your newspaper, and then so on. So everyone will take the tile that corresponds to when they finish their newspaper, and then they will get to pick their end of round scoring tile based on their position of when they finished their paper. So you're going to do that for the second and third rounds and score it the same way. And then at the end of the game, you're going to, of course, see who had the most points, and whoever had the most points will win. So yeah, so this was a really fun game. I really liked it. and I'm looking forward to playing it again. I wonder if it has a solo mode. It does have a solo mode. I wonder how the solo mode plays. I always say that. I know I always say that, and then I hardly ever actually play the solo modes. It's like not very often I play solo games, but I don't know why I feel the need for every game to have a solo mode when I know that I'm probably not going to play it solo. But yeah, it does have a solo mode. So I do wonder, I'm just curious how it plays. But I really like this game. I thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I like tile placement games, and then I do feel, like it does make me a little bit anxious, like, just knowing that there's a timer and, that you have a limited amount of time to collect the tiles and then place them. And, you're trying to make sure. So for me, I was really focused on making sure that everything was balanced. So when I was playing, like, and picking up my tiles, I was like counting the moods as I was picking them up. So I was counting the suns and the teardrops just to make sure that everything was balanced. So I was paying a lot of attention to that. And I actually ended up winning. Oh, so I just looked at the scores. So I actually won with 51 points. And then the next player had 49, then 46, then 41, then 39, and then 37. So we played a 6-player game of this. So we played the maximum player count game of this. So I actually won. So I guess paying attention to the moods and stuff paid off. And I never went, I was never too greedy. So I never grabbed more tiles, like too many tiles, so that I wouldn't be able to place them. I think that there was one round in which I couldn't place one tile. So that wasn't too terrible, actually. So yeah, so, if you're looking for a bit of strategy, since I did win, I guess I can offer some strategy tips, which usually I cannot. So yeah, so I would say pay attention to the moods, and then of course don't get too greedy, but also don't get too few tiles, because you don't want a ton of empty space. And more importantly, like, when you're placing tiles, like, pay attention to the empty white space. Like, you can manipulate tiles to try to create smaller, empty, large white spaces, because those will count as negative points if you have the largest empty white space at the end of the game. So that was something also to pay attention to. So yeah, so that is Fit to Print. So if you like real-time games or tile placement games or both, then you will definitely like Fit to Print. And I absolutely love the artwork in this game. So yeah, so check out Fit to Print. And by the way, this was not a review copy. I did back this on Kickstarter myself. All right, let's move on. So let's stick with the news theme and talk about Channel 1. So Channel 1 is a game that I played a couple days ago. It's a 2023 game for 2 to 6 players, designed by Austin Foss, Jenna Retk, and Jake Sells, and the art is done by Danny Cavall, and it's published by Pops and Bijou Games. Now this is an open drafting, hand management, action drafting, semi-cooperative game. So you are reporters, and you are following, like, you're trying to report on certain news stories and trying to follow certain leads, and you're trying to mess up other reporters by giving them bad leads, and so on. So it's semi-cooperative because, as you'll see in the picture, there are some star tokens, and if all of the star tokens are removed from the board, then no one has the opportunity to win, and I'll explain how that happens. So this game is played over 3 rounds. At the beginning of each round, you are going to take turns drafting cards. You are either going to be drafting what are called location cards, source cards, or hot tip cards. I believe they're called hot tips. Hot tip cards, I think they're called hot tips, are cards that may give you that will give you a special ability of some kind. That could be taking an extra action, it could be adding points to something, and so on. So let me just bring up some images which will help me to explain. So yeah, so that is what a hot tip card is. So you are going to see certain, I believe there's going to be 5, I don't remember the exact number, maybe 6, channel 6 stories. So you'll see 6 stories that are placed out, closed leads. They're called leads, I think. So, they have like different colors and different symbols on them. So you're going to see in the top row, there's 3 different symbols. And then in the bottom row, there's 2 different boxes that have, some symbols in those as well. So you're going to be drafting cards which will have symbols on them or locations. So in order to complete a story, you are going to need to, each story is going to need to have a location on it, plus some of the symbols associated with it. So every story will need a location, otherwise it cannot get anyone any points of any kind. So you are taking turns drafting location cards and lead cards. source cards, I mean, and hot tip cards. And then after everyone has drafted, which takes quite a bit of time, you're just going around and around until everyone has 7 cards in like a 6-player game. Then you go into the action phase. And starting with the first player, you can either place down a card or you can flip a token, which means you just want to pass that round. If you pass 2 rounds in a row, then you're out. Or you can close a lead, but I'll explain what closing a lead is in a bit. So again, in order for each card to be scored, it is going to need a location card. So that's where kind of like the cooperative element kind of also comes in. Like you kind of pay attention to who grabbed which location cards in the beginning during the drafting phase, so that you can make sure that all of the locations are covered. But some of the hot tip cards do have wild locations on them in case someone did not grab a location card. When you play a location or a source card next to a card, you get to place your own player token next to that lead, meaning that you will be scoring that lead once the round ends. And multiple players can have their tokens next to different leads. You are given 3 tokens in each round to place next to a lead. So those are the 3 that will score for you if you placed all 3. It's not necessary that you placed all 3. So each card is going to need a location card in order for it to actually score. And then in addition to that, you're going to be placing source cards. Now you will be placing source cards face up if the story is still open. So as long as the story is still open, anyone can place these face-up cards next to them. And those will give either positive points or a 0 point. So you'll see on the lead card, the 3 symbols. And the first symbol, if you place a card on it that has that symbol, it'll give 2 points to that story. If it's the second symbol, it'll give 1 point. If it's a third symbol, it'll give 0 points. You may want to place the third symbol because you just want to add your token to that lead so that you can be counting as, having that story as a part of your collection, but it's just not going to add any points. So it's just a way to kind of get your token onto a story, even just so you can be a part of that scoring. Then if the card gets flipped over, meaning it's closed, so on someone's turn they decided to close a story, you can no longer add the top symbols. Now the source cards you have, you can flip them over and you'll see on the back side it just shows what kind of a card it is, and you can add the bottom symbols now. So now you can add positive or negative points to the different stories. So you can kind of screw over other players this way. So like, for example, if I had, my token on a couple of stories, but not on a couple of different stories, and I wanted them to score negative points, then I could play source cards that would give them negative points if the stories are closed. After everyone has passed, meaning they no longer can take actions or have finished taking actions, then you will score each story. And again, if a story has 0 points at the end, you will lose one of those star tokens I talked about. If a story does not score, you will lose a star token. And again, if you lose all the star tokens, then no one wins the game. So you do not want to lose all the star tokens. So that's how the game is played essentially. So it's played over 3 rounds. You're just doing this for 3 rounds. You're drafting cards and then placing cards and, trying to screw over other players while trying to give yourself more points and so on. I was not a huge fan of this game, or not a fan at all. I liked their other game, Cultivate, which I only played once, so I need to play it again. But I'm glad I did not back this on Kickstarter because I cannot see myself wanting to ever play this game again. I thought it was okay. It just was too long for what it is. So like, it's not a heavy game. It's, a light to medium weight game. And considering the simplicity of it, like the actions that are involved and what you're actually doing, it is way too long for what it is. Like, for a game that is that light, like I don't want to spend over an hour playing it. And we played a 6-player game, which lasted quite a while. And, I was just kind of not really into it by the end. But I love the artwork. Like I absolutely love the artwork and the whole vibe of the game. Like, it's just got a cool aesthetic, but not for me. So, but if you're looking for a very simple, like, drafting action management game that can be played with maybe even kids, then, check out Channel 1. So that is my impression of that game. So let's move on. Let's talk about Garden Nation. This is a 2021 game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Klein, Volker, Grober, Garten, and No, I just read the alternate names. Those are not the designers. Okay, never mind. So the designers are Remy Saunier and Natalie Saunier. And I know I'm butchering everything here. And the art is done by Maxime Morin, and it's published by Bombyx Games. Okay, so this is an area majority game. So I played a 2-player game of this. Did I mention how many players this is for? It's for 2 to 4 players. So I would like to play a higher player count game of this. You are going to be assembling the board randomly. So it comes with like these various areas, and you're going to be placing these randomly within the borders of this. And then there is a round tracker, not a round tracker, sorry, a player turn order tracker. So if you are playing like a 3 or 4 player game, I believe you use this one. If you're playing a 2, or maybe if you're playing a 2 player, if you're playing a 2 or a 4 player game, you use this side. If you're playing a 3 player game, then you use this side. Okay, and I'll explain how that works. So you're going to have all these different areas, and some of them will be adjacent to others. And I definitely do need to throw up pictures for this one, because it needs pictures for me to explain how this works. So each player is going to have a number of pieces. So for example, I'll just show you the blue ones. No, actually, I'll just show you the green ones. So for example, you'll have these player pieces which stack up on top of each other. So you're creating like various like buildings. And there are roofs that you can add. Just, a funny thing, like I think it's weird how roof, the plural of roof is roofs, but the plural of hoof is hooves. Like, should this not be roofs? Anyway, but here is a roof that will be added to certain buildings, and I'll explain how that happens. Hello, Toffee. And then, there's different player components. So you'll have like a population tracker, a round turn order tracker, and then some special things, which I'll explain what those do. And then, oh no, Toffee. Okay. So anyway, so in this game, you are going to have population. This is your population tracker. Toffee, do I need to make room for you? Okay. So depending on what turn, if you're the first player or second player, whatever, that will determine which population you start with. And then there are some special actions that you can take, and I'll explain how those work. So basically, on your turn, you can either build or deconstruct. So you can construct a building into an empty area, or you can construct onto an existing building or abandon a building. So when you're constructing in an empty area, you are going to pay as indicated in that area. So for example, this one says the number 3. So you are going to have to reduce your population by 3 in order to build there. If you are building onto an existing building, you are going to pay the value of the land plus 1 inhabitant for each floor already there. So for example, if there was already a floor here, it would be 3 plus 1 because there's 1 floor already there, so 4. So if I'm adding onto a building that's already there, that would be 4 population I would have to reduce by. If you cannot, if you don't have population to spend, then you cannot build. So in which case you would want to abandon. So you can abandon buildings to recover floors and inhabitants and then increase your population. And there's a little chart on each player's board, which would show you how much population you would get for abandoning a building. So you would look at the value of the land, which is shown in the bottom, and then on this side you would see how many floors it was, and then you find the coordinate that you need to match up the land with the floor, and then that would show you how much population you would gain. So sometimes you need to do that because sometimes you just don't have any population to spend. So those are the main actions you can take. And additionally, you can use your bonus action. So each person has 3 tokens, ploy tokens, that they can use for a bonus action. One of them would allow you to do a strategic movement. So that would allow you to, and I'll explain what movement is because there's a torticrane and that determines where you can actually take your action. So that's like one of the most important parts of the game, and I'll explain how that works. But one of the bonus actions allows you to move that, so you can do this once per game. and allow you to take your action elsewhere rather than where the tortoise was, but it can only be by one higher or one lower with the area of the board. And I'll explain again later how that works. You can do a roof transfer, or you can do a building invasion where you basically take over someone's building and you have to spend population to do that, and they gain population as a result. And there may be reasons you want to do that to fulfill various kinds of objectives, because there are objective cards in this game that you are trying to fulfill, and that is like a way to get points. So each person is going to have 2 secret objective cards that they are trying to fulfill, and then there's going to be a bunch of open objectives, and if you complete one of the open objectives on your card, you just collect it on your turn and gain the points. So for example, like this one says you would want a level 2 building on a red space that is adjacent to a green space that does not have any buildings on it. And if you do that, you would gain 4 points. And once you complete an objective, then you have to add the roofs to the building. So that means that building is complete and you can no longer add to it unless, of course, you deconstruct that building, abandon that building. So the way that this works is, let's suppose I, on my turn, built a building here. So each person is going to, so depending on your turn order, you may get 1 action on your first turn or 2. So for example, where did that turn order tracky thing go? So in a 2-player game, I played first, I believe, so I only had 1 action available to me. Then the other player had 2 actions available to them on their turn. And then I, after taking my turn, had to move my turn marker up here. So then on my second turn, I had 2 actions. And then the next player on their second turn had 2 actions. So if you are the first one to go, you only get 1 action. And then for the next round, the player who was last would then become the first player in the next round, and so on. So if you, so let's suppose I built a building on here on my turn, and my turn is over, like I don't have another action. The torticrane is now going to move to the center area of the entire board. You are always going to move to the area which corresponds to the circle that you played on in that certain location, which is, kind of hard to understand, I guess. It would help if, I was able to show you the big board right now, but basically you'll see like a bunch of these next to each other, and they all kind of recreate what you see on each individual tile. So all of these put together are kind of going to recreate the same kind of configuration where you have 1 center, 2 on the bottom, and 1 on the left and the right, and then 2 on the top. And depending on where you play, you are going to move the torticrane to that tile, and then the next player can only play their action in that tile. But if they take their first action, like in the tile that the torticrane was in, and then they take their second action, so if they, for example, let's suppose I took an action in the center of this one, and then the torticrane moved to the center tile, and then the next player, they took their first action in the center tile of that center tile of the whole board. The torticrane would remain there. But then if they took their second action here, then the torticrane would have to move to the big tile that corresponds to this location on the big board. However, if the first player took, their first action on a different one rather than the center one, then the torticrane would move, and then for their second action, they would take their second action where the torticrane moved to, and so on. So your actions, where you take your actions, are always determined by where you either took your first action or where the previous player took their action. So the torticrane is always moving, which makes it harder to complete these objectives, and it makes it harder for you to get area control points, because at the end of each round you're also counting up for area control. So depending on who controls each area, so you'll go in order. So for example, I believe this is number 7, so this is like the number 7 tile, this is number 3, this is number 2. I believe that there's 7 tiles in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so there's 7 tiles in total because they correspond to the 7 circles. You're going to check and see who has control of each area, and then they will gain population at the end of the round. I believe the player who has control gets 2 points. If you're tied, you each get 1 point. So yeah. So that's one way to earn population as well. And the other way, of course, is to to deconstruct a building if you run out of population, so you can no longer build more buildings. The game end does trigger once someone places their last building piece. That triggers the game end. And then, of course, you're just going to add up points and see who has the most points, and whoever does is the winner. Depending on where your population tracker ended at the end of the game, that will determine how many points you get. So if you ended up with a population of 10 or fewer, you will get 0 points, and even negative points. Like, for example, if you ended up with a population of, like, say 8 or 9, it's -3 points. 6 or 7, -5. 4 or 5, -10. 2 or 3, -20. And if you only had a population of 1 at the end of the game, it's -30. Excuse me, something is tickling my throat. So the higher the population, the more points you will receive at the end of the game. So yeah, and then of course you're getting points from completing those objectives I talked about. And the point tracker goes all the way around the board on the outer edge of the board. The picture that I have shown does not show that the turn order tracker was placed in here, because I did not know that this, oops, oh my God, I just totally pushed my camera. I did not know that this pops out until after we put the game away. So this pops out and you're supposed to put the turn order tracker in there. So did not do that, but oh well, but now you know. So in case you ever buy this game, now you know. So yeah, so I like this game. I would like to play it at a higher player count. But yeah, it's a fun little area control game that's a little bit frustrating because, again, your actions, where you can take your actions, are dependent on where you either took your first action or where the other player took their last action. So yeah, so that is Garden Nation. So if you like area control games and you like the cool artwork, I really like the artwork, then it's worth checking out for sure. But if you think you might be frustrated because of how your actions are, where you can take your actions are dependent on, you know, other players and stuff, then you know, maybe you'll want to stay away from this one. But I liked it, and I intend to keep it for now, for sure, at least. I'd like to play it a couple more times for sure. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Isle of Trains All Aboard. This is a 2023 game for 1 to 4 players, designed by Seth Jaffe and Dan Keltner. And I think that's what it says. Yeah, Keltner. And the art is done by Dennis Martinez. Yeah, okay. And it's published by Dronda Games. So this is a review copy that I received at UKGE this past June. And I'm actually going to be working for Dronda Games at Essen. So I don't know which games of theirs I'll be demoing, but I thought I should play this again. I played it twice at UKGE when I received it, and then I just played it again recently. So yeah, so this is a contracts, hand management, open drafting, set collection game, and an engine building game. So you're actually like building an engine, so with train cards. So I'm going to put up some pictures, but you're going to see like a whole map, and you're going to see like different locations, like for example, cactus mines, and you're going to see like different contracts that you can fulfill on it. There's also going to be next to each location a tile like this, and you're going to be delivering passengers there. And if you are the first one to deliver a passenger, you would get the first reward. You would put the passenger on top of it, and so on. So there's 3 passengers for each location. And then each player is going to start with like a level 1 engine card, and 2 passengers, and I believe that's it, if I remember correctly. So let me just see if I can find a level 1 engine card here. I don't know. Come on, let's find a level 1 engine. I cannot find a level, well, here's one. Here's a level 1 engine card. So the level 1 engine card will show you how much weight this train can basically carry. So different cards, as you start adding them to your train, are going to have different weights. So for example, this caboose would take up 2 of those weights. So for right now, when you start with a level 1 engine, you can only carry a weight of 4. So you can't exceed the weight. But as you upgrade your engine, you're going to be able to carry more and more. The card will also show you how many points it's worth. So this is level 1, so it's worth 0 points at the end of the game. It's going to show you if it can hold any passengers or any cargo. So this level 1 engine can hold 1 passenger, and if another player places a passenger onto this card, they would get +2 cards to draw. If you place a passenger onto your own train, you do not get the bonus. It's only if you place onto someone else's train that you get the bonus that's listed at the top. But it still shows you what it can hold. So for example, like this one, if I had this in my own train, I could still place boxes in here, but I would not get the bonus. It's only if other players load boxes onto my train that they get the bonus, because then I have those boxes available to then deliver and fulfill contracts at the various locations that I showed you. So that's why they kind of get a bonus, because they're basically giving you the cargo that you would need in order to complete various contracts and of course get points. So basically on your turn, you can do 2 actions. The actions that are available are to either take. So you can take 1 card or a passenger from the bag. You can build a card from your hand by paying the cost. So when you start the game, you start with 5 cards in hand, and by the end of the turn, you have to reduce back to 5 if you have extra cards in your hand. So let's suppose I'm upgrading from a level 1 engine to a level 2 engine. Let's see if I can find a level 2 engine. I don't know if I can. Well, here's a level 3 engine, so let's just use that. So here's a level 1 engine, which has a value of 1 here, and this level 3 engine has a value of 6. I would have to pay the difference. So I would have to spend 5 cards. I would have to discard 5 cards from my hand in order to upgrade to this level 6 engine. Of course, the level 6 engine has more weight capacity. It gives you a passenger once you upgrade. So if you see a little passenger token, that means you get to collect a passenger. And of course, it's worth 4 points at the end of the game. So when you upgrade, you pay the difference. But if you're just adding a new kind of car to your train, then you just pay the cost. So for example, if I were adding a hopper, this hopper would just cost me 1. This is a level 1 hopper, but if I'm upgrading a hopper, then it would cost me the difference. So yeah, and then you'll see certain cards have certain types of cargo on them. So for example, this one only has coal on it. So this means that if I wanted to use this card to to load cargo, it would only count as a coal. Whereas some cards have 3 symbols on them, which means they could count as any one of those symbols. But you would basically know which one it's counting as based on the card that you're tucking it under. So that is one of the other actions you can take. So you can either take, so you would take either a card or a passenger as one of your actions. You can build, you can load, so you can load a card or a passenger. And again, you can only load them onto the appropriate cars that show that they can carry that type of passenger. Well, passengers can only go in cars that say that they can take passengers. And then cargo has to go into the cars that show that they take that type of cargo. Or you can deliver. So you would remove the cards from from your train and deliver to a single location. So let's suppose I deliver to Cactus Mine. So the first delivery would require 1 oil and 1 coal. And that would not immediately, but at the end of the game, give me 4 points. Before I can collect another location, I have to complete 1 of the secondary contracts. So if I complete the top secondary contract, that would give me 9 points. If I complete the bottom one, it would give me 7. The top one is harder to complete than the bottom one. And then you would flip it over. So once you've completed a secondary contract on a location, then you can deliver to a new location and you would take these cards. So after delivering to a location, you take the card. While all of this is going on, the game end is getting, it's getting closer to game end. So there is this game end tracker. So you have this railroad, and there is a train moving on it, which determines when the game ends. So anytime someone takes a location, the train is going to advance. Anytime one of these get filled up with 3 passengers, the train will advance. And depending on player count, once the train hits a certain location, the game end is triggered. And then at that point, you'll count up all of your points. So that is essentially how the game plays. It's like literally like, it's like an engine building train game. So it's pretty cool. I really like it. Yeah. And yeah, I think I've discussed everything. And then, there may be points throughout the game when you're collecting VP tokens, because, certain like certain times when you deliver to a certain person's train, it may give you a VP. So for example, if someone else had a coach and I delivered a passenger to that coach, this coach can hold 2 passengers, and it would allow me to draw 3 cards and gain 2 victory points. So there are victory point tokens that you can collect throughout the game. So for example, here's a 5 victory point token. So the passengers are going to be in this bag. So I don't have the deluxe passengers, I just have the cardboard ones, but the deluxe version has meatballs. So yeah, so you know, if you're drawing passengers, you draw them from this bag. If at any point you need to draw a passenger and there are no more passengers in the bag, you just get 1 victory point instead. So yeah, so that is how Isle of Trains plays. So you're just building a train, you're upgrading the various cars of your train, you're delivering cargo, you're, you know, loading cargo and then trying to deliver it to fulfill contracts. You're trying to deliver passengers so you can get these various bonus actions that are listed on these tiles. And yeah, and there's also buildings. Let me just show you some buildings. So for example, there are these buildings that you can build which will give you extra points at the end of the game if you fulfill like the requirements on them, the bonuses. So for example, let me find one that I understand. Here's one that I understand. So this building, if you built this building, buildings are expensive. This one costs 6 to build, and it's not like you're upgrading, so you need to discard 6 cards in order to pay this. At the end of the game, for each passenger that is in those locations, you'll gain a point. But this is, the card itself is worth 4 points, and then plus 1 point for each passenger in those 2 different locations located on this building card. So there are these building cards that also give you bonus points at the end of the game. So yeah, it's a really nice game. It's like a very cool, like thinky, like engine building game that comes in such a small box, which I love. Like I love thinky games. Like I love a lot of game in a small box, and I feel like that this, you know, is not like a lot of game, but it's a good game in a small box, which I really, really love. So yeah, so I like this game. I played it twice at UKGE and then once again this past Friday. Unfortunately, time ran out. We didn't get to finish. So we were really close to finishing, but we were told that we needed to pack up, so we didn't get to finish, which was sad. But I would like to play it again soon. I do not know if this is a game that I will be demoing at Essen. I do not know which games I'll be demoing at Essen yet, since I'm working for them. So yeah, so if you like engine building games and you like train games and you like small games that, you know, give you a good amount of game in a small box, then I highly recommend Isle of Trains All Aboard. So let's move on. Let's talk about Oh My Brain. Oh My Brain is a 2021 game for 2 to 5 players designed by Bruno Cathala and Theo Riviere. I feel like they do a lot of games together. The art is done by, oh gosh, Olivier Desrues, and it's published by Lumberjack Studios and 25th Century Games. This is a review copy that I received from 25th Century Games. I like the box. The box is really cool. Apparently it glows in the dark. Like apparently this part of the box like glows in the dark, which is super cool, but it like opens up and it gives you kind of like an overview of what the game is, and then you actually push out the components. And then when you push that out, there's like another flap, and like it feels so nice. I don't know what material that is, but it feels really nice. And then there's like this pocket to hold the rule book. So yeah, and then you get these cards, and you get these card holders, which represent your cemetery, and I'll explain what the cemetery is. And then there are these brain tokens and a die. So in this game, I do not remember how many cards you start with in hand, but let's find out. Okay. How many cards do we start with? I do not know, but we each start with 9 brain tokens. Okay, and then you're going to shuffle all 50 cards. Then you are going to deal 3 cards to each player face down. Each player is going to choose 2 of those cards to keep in their hand and then put 1 in their cemetery. So you're going to do this step 3 times. So by the end of the first step, you should have 6 cards in your hand and 3 cards in their cemetery. So you start with 6 cards in hand and 3 in the cemetery. Then you're going to put the remaining cards face down to create the swamp deck, and there's going to be a discard pile next to it. And then there's going to be a campfire pile, which is where cards are played during the game face up. So on your turn, what you're going to do is either play cards or then refill your hand. So you're going to play cards from your hand, and you always have to play a card that's of a higher value than the card that was already played. So if someone played a 7, I would have to play a 7 higher than a 7, so 8, 9, whatever, so on. And I believe it goes up to 14 if I remember correctly. I could be making that up, I really don't remember. Yes, it looks like 14 was the highest number, I think. 15 is the highest number, so it goes up to 15. And there are 0 cards as well, so you can play a card or you can play single cards. If you play, so you can play single card or you can play multiple cards. So if you have multiple copies of the same card, you place one onto the pile face up, and then the other one you add to a player's cemetery. Yes, and what else? If you cannot play any cards, then you you move all the cards from the campfire to the discard by the swamp deck. Then you lose a brain token. If it's your last one, the game ends immediately. And then you draw 2 cards from the swamp deck. You choose to keep one in hand and then place the other in your cemetery, and then you play a card to start a new campfire pile. So the purpose of this game is to get rid of all of your cards as fast as possible. And so as we know that the game will end if someone loses all of their brain tokens. But let's suppose that doesn't happen, then you keep on playing multiple rounds. So a round ends when a player finishes their turn with no cards in their hand and no cards in their cemetery. Because if you have cards in your cemetery, you like refill your hand at the end of a turn. So if you have fewer than 3 cards in your hand, you add a card from your cemetery to your hand. So by the end of the round, whenever someone ends the round, they should have no cards in their hand or in their cemetery. And when the round ends, each opponent immediately loses 1 brain token for each card remaining in their hand and in their cemetery. So if there are players left who still have some brains, then you start another round. If a player has completely lost brains, then the game ends. So as soon as a player has no brain tokens, the game ends, and then the player with the most brains left would win. And if there's a tie, well, then it's a tie, it says. There are some special cards that would allow you to do some special actions. So for example, the 8 allows you for the next player to play a card that is less than 8. If you have a mosquito, which is a 0 card, if you play that into the campfire, then the mosquito you can play on top of any card. It doesn't have to be higher than any other card. It's just the mosquito. So you can play this if you don't have a card that's a higher value than the card that was played. If it's a mouse, which is a number 11 card, that allows you to discard the campfire pile and then refill your hand as normal and then take another turn. There are cards that have a marshmallow on them. So like this one. Did not know marshmallows were pink, but yeah, that's a marshmallow. So if you play a card that has a marshmallow on it, then you roll the die. And then depending on what comes up on the die, there are certain actions you can do, like such as stealing a brain from an opponent, gaining a brain from a supply, placing a card from your hand into an opponent's cemetery, each player drawing a card from the swamp deck to add to their cemetery, swapping your hand or your cemetery with an opponent, or taking another turn. So those are the things that are on the die. So you would roll the die if you play a card that has a marshmallow on it and then do what comes up. So yeah, so this is just a card elimination game with just really cool artwork. I just really, really love the artwork in this game. Like this artwork reminds me of like the Flintstones. I know it's about zombies, but I just like really love the artwork. It just reminds me of the Flintstones for some reason. Yeah. So, and then here are all the brain tokens and then the die, which is wooden, I believe. So yeah, so that is Oh My Brains. So it's just like I wouldn't say it's super quick. It depends because, it could go on forever and ever because the game doesn't end until someone loses all of their brain tokens. So it's not the quickest, but it's not long. It's not like super long either. Like I played a 2-player game of this and we played 2 games of it, in fact. So yeah, so I liked it. I like it. I think I'll keep it in my collection. It's not like a thinky game. It's not like super thinky, you know what I mean? I mean, you may try to be a little bit strategic in when you decide to play certain cards, but it's not like an overly like strategic card game or anything like that. It's just a fun like filler game. So yeah, so if you're looking for like a fun filler card game, then yeah, check out Oh My Brains. Oh My Brain, actually, just brain, not brains. So yeah, and again, this was a review copy from 25th Century Games. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is Make the Difference. So I purchased this game from my local game store. It is a 2022 game for 2 to 4 players. The designer is Shintaro Ono, and the art is done by Shintaro Ono and Jun Sasaki, and it's published by, I believe, Oink Games, I think. Is it Oink? Yes, Oink Games. So I will say that this was priced at like $30, if I remember correctly. I used some store credit I had. I do think that this game is like super overpriced. Like it was like $30 or $35, like way too much for this game. Like should not cost that much. I mean, I guess I can understand why it costs that much. I don't know how much like markers cost, but it comes with some markers and a couple cardboard tokens and a timer. So I don't know if it's the sand timer that makes it cost that much, because otherwise it's just paper, and paper which you're going to end up like using and then not be able to use again. So like you're going to have like these different pads of paper, and there's like different like designs on each one. So I believe it comes with 10 different pads. I could be wrong. Let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So it comes with 10 pads of paper, and in each pad, I do not know how many sheets there are. Let me find one that we did not use so I can figure it out. Okay, so let's count the sheets in this one because that'll tell me. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it looks like there's 9 sheets in a pad of paper. So basically this game is for 2 to 4 players. So each player is going to take a sheet, a different sheet, like a sheet from a different pad. So you're not all going to use the same pad. So each player is going to take a sheet from a pad. And in addition to that, you're going to take a second sheet from the same pad that you took, because one you're going to be marking up and one the other players are going to need to reference. So what you're basically going to do is you're trying to draw 5 different marks somewhere on this sheet using your marker that the other players are then going to have to try to find. So yeah. So I'll just show you an example. So when I played, I used this one. So I drew marks on this one, and this was the comparison sheet that people would then look at to try to find those marks. There is this thing. So there's this thing which will determine, like, so if your marks that you made and other players did not find them, if it's like this big, then you would get like 2 points for it. If it's like that big, then you would get like 3 points for it. So, and you know, there's certain rules about marks that you draw. Like you can't draw like 2 separate lines. Like it has to be a continuous line. It can't be so small that no one would have been able to find it. It can't be, I don't know what the other rules are. Where's the rule book? What else? Yeah, differences. You can't trace over existing lines, so you can't make lines thicker. I think that's obvious. Yeah, so it says differences that are found too quickly don't score any points. Differences that are too small and unable to be found don't score any points. And differences that are big and unable to be found score a lot of points. So yeah, so everyone's going to be drawing 5 different marks on their paper, and then the other players are going to look for those marks, like based on a timer. So you have a certain amount of time to find those differences. And then you get a point for each difference you find, and then at the end, if you had differences that were not found, then based on the size of those differences, the player who made those differences would get the points. And then whoever has the most points, I guess, at the end wins. I played a 2-player game of this. I don't know how it would work with more than 2 players. Like, does the person who finds the difference get the point and then the other players don't? I guess that's how that works, and then whoever has the most points wins. So yeah, so I do not think that this game is like worth like $30. It's like a fun little game to play. Of course, it's just like a little drawing game. It's like those things that you used to see in like kids magazines when you were little, at least I did, where, you know, you'd have 2 images side by side and you're just trying to find the differences in the images. So instead of, you know, in this case, you actually get to make the differences and then the other players get to find them. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It's like a, you know, we played this, me and my friend played it while we were waiting in a restaurant for our food to be delivered. So it was perfect for that. So I think it's like a perfect game to sit there and play while you're waiting for food to be served or something like that. So for that, I would say it's good. But, you know, again, limited number of sheets and pads of paper, so, and different images. So, you know, eventually it's not going to be replayable again. So, because, you know, also, and when you draw images, when you draw the lines, you place this over it, and that helps mask the markers. So that helps you know, make it so that all the lines, including the marked up ones, look the same. So yeah, so it's not obvious which lines are drawn by marker. So yeah. Yeah, so again, I think it's way overpriced for what it is, but it's a fun little game. I did spend store credit, and after store credit, I did use store credit. It cost me like 20 bucks. I don't know if it was worth 20 bucks. Like, I feel like I should have paid like 10 bucks for this. Like, I think it's like a $10 game in my opinion. But let me know if you have it and what you think. And the timer does not work very well. The sand kind of gets stuck in it sometimes, so you have to kind of like hit it a little bit hard, but maybe that's a problem with all sand timers. I do not know. So yeah, so that is Make the Difference. So that is another game that I played recently. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is Lofoten. So I had my second play of this game. This is a 2022 game for 2 players, designed by Sebastian Dujardin, and the art is done by Luis Francisco and Robertson Santiago, and it's published by Pearl Games. I bought this from my local game store when I found out that Pearl Games was kind of going out of business, or that Asmodee was, not Asmodee, but Asmodee, when Asmodee was cutting their like ties with Pearl Games. So I was worried that this would like go out of print, and I absolutely love Weberson Santiago's artwork, so I just had to have this game. I like it. It's a fun little 2-player game about Vikings. So I've discussed it before, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'll throw up a picture. But basically you're going to have like this board, and there's going to be different kinds of cargo tiles on there. Each player, oh, this is like coming apart. Yeah. Like, this is not good. I should probably glue that, maybe. I don't know. Like, this part is coming off of that. Oh, anyway. And each player is going to have a ship, a long ship, and you're going to be adding different cards into your long ship, and then rotating it and moving it along this board, and trying to collect different types of cargo and then unload them and score points for them and stuff like that. So that is basically the game. I mean, obviously there's a lot more to it. So like, for example, you're going to, okay, so yeah, you'll have 3 cards in hand at all times. So, and the cards in your hand can never change position. So for example, let's suppose I started with these 3 cards in my hand. I would have to keep them in this position. So on your turn, you can either use the left card or the right card for movement. So the value of the card would determine how many movement points you get. And movement means moving your ship along that board or rotating it. So you can mix it up. So you can, like, if you had a movement of 3, you could like move 1 space and then rotate 2 spaces if you wanted to. But you always have to do it in the direction of the card that you used. So if I had this 2 on my right hand side, I can only move my ship 2 spaces to the right or rotate it to the right. I cannot move it to the left or rotate it to the left. That's why the position of the cards in your hand is very important. So the leftmost and the rightmost cards are always used for movement, like horizontally along this board, or for rotation of your ship. You want to rotate your ship so that you can load cargo onto it and then unload. When the ship is, when the part of the ship is directly near a cargo, then if it's the matching cargo type, because you put a card in there at some point, and I'll explain how that's done, then you immediately load that cargo. And then once the ship is rotated and that part of the board is facing you, that cargo unloads at that point in time. So the middle card is what you can use to load cargo. So you're gonna actually add the card to your ship. So you would just slide it into your ship like this. And when you do that, you always get a bonus action of some kind. So you slide in the card like this, and then the top part is the bonus action you would get. Like, sometimes it lets you collect a coin, sometimes it lets you discard what's on here and refill the board with different types of cargo, and so on. So that is how you actually get this card, so that you can then rotate it and match it up to the matching cargo tile on here, so that you can then load that cargo tile. And here are the different types of cargo tile with different numbers on them, and then hopefully rotate it so that you can unload it. So loading and unloading are actions that happen automatically. So then after you've played a card from your hand on your turn, you draw a card, and then you decide where you want to place it. You can either place it here or here. You cannot stick stick it between the two cards. So as the game is progressing, you are always getting cards that can only go to the left or the right. And by doing that, then you just basically determine which card is then going to be in the center by where you place that other card. So for example, let's suppose I had these two cards. If I place this here, now I know that this fish is the card that I will be allowed to load as cargo. But if I place it here, then I can load this card as cargo. And then these two would be used as movement. So there's always that decision that you get to make on where you place the card once you draw it. But you cannot change the order of your cards because again, the leftmost and rightmost card are used for movement and the middle card is for loading onto your ship and collecting cargo. And then once you collect the cargo and unload it, you just discard this card. And if the draw pile ever becomes empty, you just like reshuffle these cards and so on. So there are different types of cargo tiles and they have different values on them. And if you are the first player to unload a certain cargo type, you are going to place it next to one of the scoring cards. There are going to be, I believe, 4 different scoring cards because there are 4 different types of cargo. So let me find a scoring card, for example. So here is an example of a scoring card. So here is a scoring card. So if you were the first player to unload a certain type of cargo, you would place it next to the scoring card on your side. So it's basically going to be between the 2 players. And then if the next player unloads, it's a 2-player game, so if the other player unloads that type of cargo, they have to put it next to the same card on their side. So there's going to be 1 card for basically each cargo type. And then whoever has the most value of that type of cargo at the end of the game will gain the points listed on the card. So it's not the value of the cargo itself that is your points, it's whoever has the highest value of that cargo type on that card that will get the points listed on that card. And then whoever has the most points at the end of the game will win. So that is how Lofoten works. I think it's a really clever game. I like it a lot. I think it's a really good 2-player game. So yeah, so if you're looking for like a clever kind of like 2-player game with like a rotating ship mechanism, because I don't think I've ever seen that in any other kind of game, then definitely check it out. I really like it. So yeah, so that is Lofoten. So I do believe I've discussed it before, and because I've played it before, and again, Pearl Games is no longer in business. I do not know if this will be reprinted by another publisher, but maybe worth checking out if you can get your hands on it, since Pearl Games did have to go out of business because of what Asmodee ended their relationship with them. So yeah, so that is Lofoten. So let's move on. Okay, let's talk about games that I am backing. Firstly, I canceled my pledge for Harvest, the game that was from Keymaster Games, because it was super expensive, and I figured it's Keymaster Games, so it's likely to, you know, be available at my local game store once you know, retail receives it, so that way I also don't have to pay for shipping, and I can, you know, also just kind of see whether the game actually gets published, because I know that there's some kind of a lawsuit involving Keymaster Games, not the game specifically, I think, but Keymaster Games. So yeah, you know, but who knows? It could affect the game. You know, who really knows? So I canceled my pledge just because it was a super expensive game, and it is very likely going to be available in my local game store. Whether all the Kickstarter exclusives, I don't know if there are Kickstarter exclusives, and you know, I do think that the deluxe version will be available at my game store, because my game store usually backs, you know, the deluxe versions of games. So yeah, so canceled my pledge for that, but now I am backing another game called Mycelia. So I'm backing this game called Mycelia, the strategic mushroom game. It just looks really cool. It's gotten amazing reviews. So far it's raised over $187,000 at the time I'm shooting this video. So it has over 2,700 backers, and it has 27 days to go. So there's a lot of time left on this campaign, but it looks really good. It's published by Splitstone Games. So it says, what is Mycelia? So this is a dynamic game of tactics, a competition for space and resources to create your own mushroom kingdom. The game follows the life cycle of fungi, growing mushrooms to score points, sporing them to expand your mycelial network, and eventually seeing them decay to unlock special actions. So I feel like recently I've just become a huge fan of mushrooms. I don't know how it happened because I previously backed 2 other mushroom games, Mycology and Mycelium. So here is a 3rd mushroom game I'm backing within the same year. It's like mushrooms are very popular right now. Like seriously, who would have thought that there would be like 3 big mushroom games coming out in 1 year? And I recently bought a hat that has a bunch of different mushrooms on it, which I really like. I went kayaking, so I guess I'll post a picture of when I went kayaking and wore that hat. I don't know if you can see the print, but it's green and it's got a bunch of different mushrooms on it. So yeah, so I feel like I've become a fan of mushrooms lately. So, and the artwork in this game just looks really good. So I am backing this game, and it's much more affordable than Harvest. I mean, I'm not saying it's cheap. Okay, it's not that much affordable because I forgot that it's in pounds. So it's not that much more affordable, but still cheaper than the deluxe version of Harvest. So the deluxe version of Mycelia is 54 pounds, which is about $68. So yeah, I forgot that it's in pounds and not dollars. Okay, so yeah, so I'm backing that, which looks really good. So yeah, I believe that they're going to be at Essen. I'll see if I can try to demo it while I'm at Essen. In fact, since it has 27 days to go, I could even demo it there and then decide if it's a game for me or not, and then decide whether or not I want to keep my pledge. So that is a very good idea. So I shall try to demo it when I am at Essen, since I think they'll be there. So moving on, I'm still backing Favor the Gods of Athera. So let's see how much time that has left. So I'm backing that at $1 so I can receive my production copy, since it is a game that I covered for its Kickstarter. It has 3 days to go, and it has raised exactly $18,000, which is a very nice round number right now. So it has 131 backers. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen a campaign with such a round number like that. Just really nice, even round number. So yeah, so that is another game I'm backing. And then I'm very curious about this one game on GameFound, which is not funding at the moment, but it just looks interesting, but I'm not sure I even understand how it plays. Like, I watched the quick video that the designer or the publisher made for this game. I haven't watched any of the content creator videos, and I could not understand really how it plays, but it's called The Strange Forgeries of Mr. S. She Reber, and it just looks really interesting. Like, the artwork is just really cool, which is like what's attracting me to this game, and I know I should not be backing it just because of the artwork, so I'm not backing it. But I'm just very curious if anyone else who's watching this, Toffee, if anyone else who's watching this has backed it or expressed interest in this game. Toffee, you are so naughty. Okay, so yeah, so I'm not backing it, but I'm just curious if you've heard of this game, and if you are, I'll leave a link to it below. I don't know, the artwork just really is just very cool. It's just like really interesting artwork, like just a very unique style, which is just really what's getting me, and it kind of makes me want to get it, but I don't know if it's gonna fund. How many days does it have left? Let's see. It has 28 days left, and right now it's at 4,446 euros, and it's 44% funded. So not sure if it'll even fund, but just something to keep an eye on and see, what happens with that, I guess. Okay, so let's move on to games that I have received or bought. So first I'll show a game that I bought. My friend Tim did kind of try to talk me out of this, because we were leaving the game store after game night and I saw it, and there was only one copy of it left. As far as I could see, there was only one copy of it left, and it was a game that I had been interested in, so I had $20 available in store credit. So the game would have only, after store credit, cost me like another 20 some dollars. With tax, I think it came out to like $23. So I ended up buying In the Footsteps of Darwin. Now, I know I already have another Darwin themed game. I have Darwin's Journey, which I covered for its Kickstarter, and I have not even played with my production copy yet, which is really nice. It's like the nice deluxe one. But I'm a sucker for games with like animal artwork, and I just really, really loved the artwork in this game, and it seemed like it had good reviews. So I ended up buying it. So yeah, so this is what the box looks like. So the tiles, let me just stick that back in here, but everything fits really nicely in this box, or at least it did. Yeah, so these, let me just put that in here. So yeah, so everything fits really nicely in this box. Like, you have all these tiles and then these like tokens of some kind, and then stuff in here, and yeah, and then the various player boards. Yeah, and then there's like this beagle. So I believe that this is the main board. So it shows the voyage of the Beagle. And no, I do not know how to play yet. All I know is it's like kind of like a tile placement game, like you're collecting different tiles and adding them into your own journal. So each player has like a different color journal, and when you open it up, that's where you see all the locations for placing the tiles. And I love the individual artwork of each journal. Like this is the bird, so on the inside it's got all the different kinds of bird artwork. Here we have a lizard, and then on the inside you see the different kinds of lizard artwork. This one is a butterfly. This one is a tiger. And this, I think, is a raccoon. And then, what is this? There's something else here. Oh, it's just the bottom of the box. Never mind. I was trying to pull out the bottom of the insert. I didn't realize it was like connected to this. So yeah, and then we've got like some different kinds of tokens and stuff. So there's like these different people tokens. There are these compasses. There is Charles himself, which I'm guessing is a first player marker. I really don't know. And then I already showed the ship. And then inside of here, what do we have? We have some of these like bonus tokens or whatever. Again, I don't know how to play, but there's like different kinds of animals and stuff on each of these. So I just stuck those in there. I don't know if that's what was supposed to go in here. I really don't know. And then there's a bunch of different like animal tiles. So let me just pull out a couple just to kind of, oh no, not a snake. Ugh. I don't like snakes. Okay, here is a turtle. And there are a couple of snakes in this game. Like I was like, couldn't you have just put one? Like, why did we need multiple snakes? Like, I feel like by adding multiple snakes, you've taken away from other cool animals being added. Like, I think one snake would have been sufficient, but oh well. So yeah, I did see an elephant. I'm not gonna go looking for it right now because it would be hard to find. And then there are these various like tokens. I don't know what they are. So yeah, so that is, you know, what comes in the box. And now I just need to figure out how to play it. so yeah, you know, I hope it was not like a waste of money, because I remember I had backed this one Charles Darwin themed game on Kickstarter, which I played once and culled immediately, on the Origin of Species. Yeah, I was not a fan of that game. So I hope that this is better in my opinion than that game was. So I bought this, and then let me just show you some games that I received if I can reach them. Yes, okay. So the following are all review copies. So I received a review copy of Gasha from 25th Century Games. Have no idea what this is. It's designed by Jason Levine, and the art is done by Christine Alcouf and Miguel Coimbra, and it's published by 25th Century Games. It's for 2 to 6 players. It just comes with a bunch of different cards and tokens. So it looks like very like kind of like Asian themed, I guess. I really don't know what this is supposed to be. Like, is it like anime? I really don't know what Gasha is. Yeah, no idea what this is, but you know, it looks kind of like Asian-y to me. I don't know, like anime kind of, or something. Not that I'm an expert in that. I really don't know. I don't actually watch anime, so I really don't know what this is. So, and then there's a bunch of different tokens. Yeah, so I really don't even know anything about this game. Let's see. It's a set collection card game. Oh, it actually says, oh, okay, where you experience the thrill of trying your luck at the Japanese toy dispensers, the gashapons. You never know which gasha you will get. Match the gashas shown on the set reward cards to score points and sometimes get a bonus token. Oh, so I was right about the Japanese part, but not about the anime part. So these are Japanese toys. Okay, that's cool. So I'll give that a try. And then another review game from 25th Century Games is Ghosts Love Candy 2. Now, you would think that I would love this game. I haven't played it yet, but I'm not a fan of the artwork. So this game is designed by Danny Devine, and I believe he did the artwork as well. Yes, game design, graphic design, and illustrations by Danny Devine, and it's published by 25th Century Games. Now, I love Halloween, as you all know, but the art style in this just does not appeal to me. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure there are people who love it. I just personally, like, you know, because I'm actually just designing a Halloween themed game myself, in addition to my my elephant themed game, and you know, I'm going for like, I want to go for a different, totally different aesthetic than this. But of course, you know, this would definitely appeal to kids, I feel like, this artwork. So yeah. And there's a whole bunch of different cards. I just couldn't fit them all into one bag, so I split them up. But there's a bunch of different cards like that. And then there are these ghost cards, I believe. They are ghosts. Yeah, so all these different ghost cards with numbers on them. And again, I do not know how to play. I just received this and I have not had a chance to play it yet. So that is Ghosts Love Candy. Oh, did I show what was in the bag? I don't even know what's in the bag. Looks like candy tokens. So yeah, looks like different kinds of candy tokens, like candy corn and stuff like that. There are some negative tokens. So yeah, like a toothbrush. That's funny. Yeah, some other candy. So yeah, there's like a bunch of different kinds of candy tokens in this bag. The bag is cool, of course, the jack-o'-lantern. So yeah, so that's another review copy I received. So I'm gonna try to play that soon. We shall see, especially since it's Halloween season. So, you know, I'll try to play that soon. Since, you know, and then a game I received is my production copy of Tolerance, which is a game I covered for its Kickstarter or GameFound. It's a strongly thematic asymmetric set collection game representing the conflict between Protestants and Catholics in 16th and 17th century England. So let me just show you some of the components. It's a very thin box, but luckily everything fits. Like, yeah, as long as you don't sleeve it, then everything will fit. So here are like some different cards. I really like the artwork. It's been a long time since I played it, so to be honest, I do not remember how it plays. So, that is the problem when you have way too many games, and if you don't play the games, you know, enough times, you're not going to remember how they play. The score sheet, and then there are some like player, like different kinds of like characters and like different things. Yeah. So yeah, that is Tolerance. So I'll see if I can get in a play of this again someday soon. I say that with every game I have. It's just, you know, I have too many games. So maybe I shouldn't have bought in the Footsteps of Darwin, but oh well, it's too late now. So yeah, so this arrived. So again, that is a review copy because I covered it for its Kickstarter. So I think that is it. Let me just double check. Oh yeah, Fit to Print I showed earlier, so that was a game I backed on Kickstarter as well, so I showed that. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. So let's move on to updates. So Essen, I don't think I really have any updates with regards to Essen, still going. But I do have a question. If anyone who is watching this has been to Essen, I would love to know if you have any advice on where I should stay in Dusseldorf. So I'm going to be staying an extra day in Germany so that I can explore the city of, and pardon me if I butchered the pronunciation, Cologne, Germany. So I want to spend a day exploring Cologne before heading back to America. So I will be spending the night in Dusseldorf, which is where I'm flying out of. And I know nothing about Germany, so if anyone has any advice on where to find an Airbnb in Germany, in Dusseldorf, that would be convenient for transportation, because I will not have transportation. I don't know if Ubers are really a thing there. You know, I don't know how I would get to Cologne, but I need to figure all of that out. So if anyone has any advice with regard to that, I would really appreciate it. Moving on, cats. I haven't talked about the cats in a while, so still going every day. I still haven't assembled the first shelter that I bought for them using the donations that I received. I'm waiting for a friend who is like a woodworking friend of mine to hopefully come over sometime soon and help me assemble it and then go place it out there. And then once we do that, then I will see whether that shelter is good and I should spend the remaining funds that I received for shelters on that same kind of shelter or a different kind of shelter, because I did receive enough funds to buy 2 additional shelters. So yeah, so still going every day, and have discovered some new kittens. So, you know, more and more cats. I'm starting to see more and more cats, and I've named all of them. So they all have names that are related to food and or drinks, but autumn food or drinks. So it's all like fall themed, autumn themed. So yeah, still going every day and still love them. But still have not gotten to pet one of them yet, but we're getting there, I think. So another update, I saw that Alex from Board Game Code last week did a video on content creation and burnout. I watched it like a week ago, so I don't remember too much now, but I can just like look at the timestamps and see, kind of remind myself of the kind of stuff that he talked about. So I thought I would talk a little bit about it. I don't feel burnt out yet. I've been doing content creation now since 2020. So of course, when I started it just for fun because, you know, it was the pandemic and I wanted a way to stay connected to board games. So I started creating 1-minute overviews on TikTok and it just kind of blew up overnight. And of course now there's like, God knows how many creators on TikTok, right? But this is like way back when, and I think I was maybe like the first person who started doing 1-minute overviews, or like maybe the second person, but definitely like one of the first 2 people for board game content, I think, on TikTok. And since then it's exploded, and now people, you know, are making all kinds of amazing board game content on TikTok, like, you know, funny skits and all kinds of stuff. But I don't feel burnt out because, you know, I started it for fun. It's not like a full-time job for me. It's not something I do as a full-time job, and I never ever would, because I think the industry is too crazy for me to ever want to rely on this industry being my sole source of income. Like, I would never ever want to take a full-time job in this industry in any position whatsoever. Like, so even if that's working for a publisher as something, like, I would never ever personally want to take a full-time job in this industry, having already been bullied and harassed for, you know, the stupidest reasons ever, where I do not feel that people were justified in bullying me or harassing me and trying to cancel me. So I think that, you know, there's a lot of people who are just very insufferable and crazy in this industry and very loud. I feel like the very insufferable people are the loudest people on Twitter and elsewhere, and they're the ones who are always trying to cause drama and get people canceled and stuff for, like, you know, just really stupid reasons. Like, if you just do something, you know, or say something that just disagrees with their political views or whatever, which, you know, isn't even what I did, but whatever, you know, then God forbid, because they will come after you. So I personally would never ever want my sole source of income to come from this industry, and it never will. So for that reason, it's still something I just do for fun. So I do content creation for fun, and for that reason, I don't feel burnt out yet. And, you know, he talked a little bit about why people, so this is in a group this conversation happened in a group on Facebook, which I got banned from for no reason. You know, before I went to UKGE last year. It was like the dumbest, stupidest thing ever. Like, someone posted that they were going to UKGE, just to recap, and, you know, so that they could, you know, alert publishers to the fact that they were going, and then I did the same thing and I got banned for it. So yeah, so I created a post, even though other people had already created posts like that, but I'm the one who gets banned for it. So yeah. So I'm not in that board game reviewers and media group, which, you know, had a negative impact on my content creation, because as a result, I couldn't see what other new games are coming to crowdfunding. So I couldn't, you know, alert publishers to the fact that I'm interested in covering their games and so on in that group. So I have to, you know, find out about new games on my own, essentially. So, you know, I still do have publishers that I have a good relationship with, thankfully, who still want, you know, me to create overview videos and stuff for them. So where was I going with this? Yeah, so I still do this for fun. I'm not making as much money from this as I was back in, like, you know, the peak of my content creation career, which I would say was 2021, before I started getting bullied and harassed for going to Universal Studios in January of 2021. Yeah, so no, I guess the peak of my career was like between 2020 and 2021. Yeah, so, but then I got bullied and harassed for going to Universal Studios. So that's when, you know, things, I feel like, started to die down a little bit. And then again, because I'm pro-Palestinian and that whole thing that came up. So yeah, you know, but I don't feel burnt out because I do this for fun. And yeah, my subscriber count is not really increasing at like a fast rate. Like right now, I think I'm up to 5.58K subscribers. So, you know, it's increasing gradually, very slowly, but gradually, I guess. what else? But yeah, I still like doing it. I still like talking to the camera about the games I've played, and it seems like that there are people who like listening to me talk about games. So as long as that's the case, I will just continue to make content, because again, I'm not burnt out. Like, I make one weekly video a week, and then I, have these overview videos, like, and those are, far and few between now. They are not like the vast majority of my content anymore. And then of course I do enjoy making list videos, and I want to make more of those. So I think I would like to start making more list videos, but because it's not my sole source of income, I don't think I'll ever feel burnt out from it. But if I do, of course I would say that, and then of course, maybe slow down on making content. But yeah, he talked a little bit about the kinds of feedback people receive. I occasionally get a troll commenting on my videos on YouTube. But not that often, really. Yeah, I do occasionally get that on Board Game Geek as well. Like, when I post videos on Board Game Geek, I will occasionally get like people who are like, oh, like, why would anyone want to watch your overview videos? Like, you talk too fast, you do this, you do that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, there's like a billion types of content out there on board games. Like, just go find a content creator who appeals to you then. Like, there's no reason for you to leave crappy comments in someone's video. If you don't like their content, just don't comment. Just please go elsewhere and find content that you do like. You don't need to tell me that you don't like my content. I don't care. If you don't like it, cool. And then find something you like. Like, I just don't understand the point of those kinds of comments. It's just insane. He talked a little bit about lack of growth and negativity towards content creators can be devastating. Yes, like, okay, I don't find lack of growth to be that devastating, but negativity, I've dealt with a lot of negativity in this industry. So, on multiple occasions. So that can be hurtful, but I just keep on going. So no one's ever going to stop me. So like, I have said that time and time again, like, if people want to try to bully me out of this industry, it's not going to happen. Like, they've tried already on multiple occasions, and I always say, try and try again, because I don't care, because I'm not going anywhere. And that's what they're trying to do. So anytime they bully and harass someone that they don't like, they're trying to get you to leave this industry. And if you do that, you're just giving up. You're just giving these bullies and these harassers what they want. So no one is going to bully me into going away. So that's never going to happen. I think that there was some discussion about how this industry, there's like a lot of content creators, and you sometimes need to do original things in order to get more views. I'm not going to name the channels, but like, I noticed that when I started my weekly series, that another channel who has a lot more subscribers than I do basically took something that I'd started in my weekly series and added it to their own videos. So I started showing games that I received that I would be covering, or games that I just had backed and had come in, and previously this channel was not doing that, and then they started doing that. And of course, I did overview videos, and then other people started creating overview videos back in 2020. So when you start something, of course, there's the chance that other people are going to copy your idea and start doing it as well. And, if they're a larger channel, they're the ones who are going to get the views. And, that's basically what happens. So like, just because I started my weekly series, it has not helped my channel to grow a lot. But, it's growing very slowly, but I've seen other channels basically, take ideas from my channel, or maybe they just happened to come up with the idea at the same time that I started doing my weekly series. Who knows? But, they were creating their episodes for a very long time before they started doing what I was doing. So yeah, you have to kind of try to stay original, and it's really hard to be original in this industry. So I think more importantly than being original is just being authentic. Like, I would not want to watch a channel where the people seem fake, where they seem like they're not personable, where they seem like they are kind of, just putting on a show for the camera. I would not be interested in watching content like that anyway. And from what I've seen, some people have commented that they watch certain creators and then they meet those creators in person, and then those people are just not nice or friendly in person. So then in that case, I'd say that, yeah, you're fake. Like, if you're pretending to care about all these board gamers while creating your videos, and then you go on to not meet the people who are watching your content and have, and not give them time and not talk to them, I mean, I understand if you're running from one place to another, but like, let's suppose you're not running from one place to another and someone approaches you and wants to talk to you. I feel like it's kind of like the same thing with celebrities, right? Like, so like I, as a fan of like Hugh Jackman, I have gone and seen a number of his Broadway shows, and I would wait by the stage door for him. So I've had my photo taken with Hugh Jackman on a couple of instances, and he's very kind. Like, by the stage door is fair game because that is his career. He's an actor. So if you're by the stage door and it's your fans who have helped you to remain popular and helped you to get the business, the acting deals that you do, then of course you should give your fans time. So stage doors are fair game. If there is an actor having dinner with his family, am I going to go up to him and be like, hey, can I have a picture? Of course not, no. But likewise, if you're a content creator and you're at a convention and it's the people who watch your content that help your channel to be as successful as it is, if someone approaches you at a convention to talk to you, you should be willing to talk to them. Like, if they're a fan of yours, you should be willing to talk to them. It should not matter, I think. Like, no, okay, first of all, who even asks anyone what their political views are before talking to someone at a convention? So all of that makes no sense to me. So I think, if anyone approaches you, you would not know what their political views are or anything like that. So that should not be an issue for you. And you should talk to your fans and be friendly with them because they are the ones who helped you to, have your channel and helped you to get the business that you get. But I've heard instances of people saying that they've, tried to talk to content creators at conventions, not when they're running from one place to another, so not when they're like actually busy, and that they've just been kind of brushed off or, whatever. And I think that really sucks. So, I would not want to do that. And I would not want to watch people who are like that because, I think that's fake. What else? The industry does not pay enough for what it has to be put in it. For what has to be put in. Yeah, so that's why you should be doing it only if you love it. Like, I'm not getting, I spend way more money than I make from this. I do charge for my overview videos, but I spend way more than I make from it because I spend money on, I've spent money on lighting. I've spent money on trying to upgrade that. So when I first started shooting videos, the lighting was really bad. So I spent money on upgrading my lighting. I've spent money, I keep my camera upgraded, my phone. I shoot with my phone, so I try to keep that upgraded. I have a website, so I have to pay the yearly fee for my website. I have, business cards I need to print. There's, expenses of getting to conventions and all of that and blah, blah, blah. There are just so many expenses that are associated with content creation. And I'm not making as much as I used to from content creation. So in the end, I'm not really turning a profit, I think. 1 year I did really well. So the year in which I did really well, I did pretty well. It was a good chunk of change, but that is not the case anymore. So yeah, so you're just putting in a lot more time and a lot more money into an industry that is not giving you as much back. If you're a smaller channel, that is. If you're a big channel, then obviously that's probably not the case. What else? Oh yeah, coverage must always be on the newest thing. That is a problem. So I'm trying to get away from that, and this weekly series is a way for me to try to get away from that, where I talk about all the games I've played. And of course, if I've played an older game, I talk about that too. I'm not going to just talk about the newest game. But yes, it is, talking about the newest game is what is going to get you the views and the new subscribers. So of course there is that, pressure to always play the newest thing, to always back the newest thing, to always talk about the newest thing so that you can hopefully gain new subscribers and gain new viewers and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, and that does, as a content creator, prevent you from maybe playing games that you love over and over again, which is, a sad part about content creation. So I do miss certain games that I want to play, but I know that I have other games that need to be played first. So that is a negative of content creation for sure. What else? Just being good and staying consistent still isn't a guarantee. Yeah, I guess I can't speak for that. My channel is so small, so it's not like I'm growing at a really fast rate or anything like that. So I don't know. We'll see how my channel is for a year from now. But like I said, it's growing slowly, but surely for now. I've been gaining subscribers slowly but surely for now. But yeah, I'm still at 5,500 something. We already talked about the uniqueness, channels that add value for him. I don't have anything to add to that. Positive feedback, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so I think I think I've covered most of the points that he talked about. So I just thought I'd talk about my experiences with content creation. But yeah, I'm just going to stick around for as long as people watch my content, and I don't think I'll be burning out anytime soon, so I'm not going anywhere. So yeah, so that's my little, spiel on all of that. Let's move on. So let's move on to the question of the week. So this question has to do with a recent announcement from Dice Throne. So I don't know if you guys know the game Dice Throne, but they recently announced that there is a new X-Men Dice Throne. So at Gen Con, they apparently had a bunch of different content creators come in, and they videotaped all the reactions of the various content creators to at seeing what this new thing is that Dice Throne would be revealing, which they just did like a day or two ago. So they revealed it a day or two ago. But they videotaped all these reactions from these different content creators. And, most of them, I think all of them, at least the ones they showed, looked excited. Like, oh, like, wow, this is amazing, blah, 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 blah. So, right? So I was super excited. Like, I didn't go to Gen Con, so I was like really excited to find out what this big reveal is. And given the timing of the reveal, I hoped it would be a Halloween-themed Dice Throne, which we have yet to get. So on Kickstarter, like over a year ago, they had the Christmas-themed Dice Throne, which I backed. I really like Dice Throne. I think it's a super fun game, and it's super easy to play over video chat. So if you have friends in different locations and you want to play Dice Throne, it's super easy to play over video chat with them. And you can just play as whatever character you want, and you're just rolling dice, and and as long as they have that same character, they'll just have the negative tokens that they would have to add onto their own board, and just so it's super easy to play over video chat. So I was super excited because I thought it would be a Halloween themed one, because they did Christmas last year, so I'm like, yay, Halloween. But no, it's X-Men, and I'm like, oh, like, okay, I've seen X-Men, I've seen the movies, and I like them, I enjoyed them, especially Wolverine, because like I'm a huge fan of Hugh Jackman, so I really loved the Wolverine ones, especially like Logan and stuff like that. But yeah, not at all excited about this Dice Throne announcement. Like when I found out it was X-Men, I was like, wow, thank goodness I did not go to Gen Con, and thank goodness I was not invited to see what the big reveal is, because like I just would not have cared at all, and I would have been really disappointed. So my question to you guys is, do you get excited about games based on various IPs like X-Men? And yeah, I don't. So even Harry Potter, like I don't get excited about games based on a lot of IPs, even though I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, because most often they don't even use original artwork. I think in this case they are using like artwork instead of the images of the actors, which is good, but I don't care about X-Men. Like I don't have any X-Men or Marvel themed games. I just don't care about it at all. But like, let's suppose it was a Harry Potter Dice Throne. The only way I would be interested in it is if they use artwork and not the images of the actors. Like generally speaking, I just don't care about IPs. Generally speaking, I just really don't. So I wanted to know if you do, and if you're excited about this announcement, and if you do care about IP games based on various IPs, which ones do you actually care about and why? And I would love to know. So if you can leave that in the comments below, I will definitely love to read your replies about which IPs you guys are interested in or not interested in. Just tell me whatever you want to tell me. So until next week, bye.